Welcome to the Book of Balance podcast, where real stories meet real numbers. I'm your host, Patricia Olegui, your bookkeeper and believer that business should serve your life, not consume it. Each week, we sit down with entrepreneurs who've built their dreams from scratch and learned to balance their books, their boundaries, and their energy along the way. Ready to turn the page on financial stress and write your own story of clarity? Let's dive in. Welcome. My name is Patricia Olegui, and I am the host of the Book of Balance podcast. And today I have Megan Baxter, a social media strategist, and I would like for you to share your story. Tell us about what your path has been, how you've come from, what was your previous career, if you had a different one, and what made you focus on being a social media strategist and support other entrepreneurs with their social media.
Okay. That is very loaded because it's actually super winding. Contrary to anything that you may see in my present day, I actually started in hospitality. I had a challenging childhood. I was out of my home very, very young, like an early teenager, and had to work because, well, I needed someplace to live. So it's very easy. Back in the early 90s, I could just go waitress. So I waitressed, and then I bartended, and then I ran the bars, and then I owned a bar. So the entrepreneurial flame was always there. But then I also burnt out because working in the middle of the night for almost 2 decades is taxing and exhausting. And I really missed my kids. I was never home at night so that I could be home during the day when they needed the doctor's appointments, the play at school, the after school soccer game. I could do all those things, but the sacrifice was I gave up bedtime. And that really started to wear me down after a long time. You know what I mean? My son was going into high school and my daughter was now halfway through elementary school. They have a big age gap and I wasn't home. I never had bedtime. And it really almost to push the brink of break or insanity, it really started to wear on me. Not because I was against being a working mom. I didn't grudge that I was working to support my kids. It was just, I felt like I had missed so much. So I decided no more night. I'm done with this. I closed my bar. The whole world told me I was crazy. Whole world told me I was crazy. I wanted something I could do very early morning now that they were big enough to get themselves off to school on the school bus. And I'd be able to be home at night and in the evening. So I went back to school. I went to school for sports physiology and nutrition. I was going to be a trainer. That was my next game plan. I like fitness. I like health. I'm a very homeopathic person. I'm anti-chemical, all those things. It seemed like a very perfect fit. I knew how to run the business side of it because I had already been running a brick and mortar business. Seemed like it was going to be amazing. Started, got going, got a little underneath my belt, and COVID hit.
Oh my God. You serious?
And the gym's closed, which if there isn't a bigger sign from God telling you, no, close. Close. The path is close. We're getting warmer, but how about a big fat no? Now, the state that I live in, I'm in New Hampshire, gyms were one of the last things to reopen, where some businesses were able to open just a short 3 or so months later. Our gyms stayed closed for, I think it was like 7 or 8 months.
Oh my God.
I had no idea when they would open, but in hindsight, right, I couldn't not work. I had a house. I had kids. They like food. I had a mortgage. I had things that I needed to continue to take care of. Yes, there was some unemployment, but that does not replace what you're earning. No. Have the ability to go earn. So fortunately, because I really believe God had a plan, I really, every crazy dot on my map brought me to exactly what I'm doing right now, that you can't see while you're going through it. You can see it in hindsight. My minor was in marketing because they made us. Where I went to school, they pushed professional development, particularly for trainers and physical therapists, because if you can't market yourself, you're never going to have a client. And the dean that I had, it was very important to her that we could market ourselves. We had to know social media. We had to understand how to get our name out there, get in front of people, hand out 1 million business cards, talk to anyone you encounter. We had to get over all those things that people usually hold back and shy back from because they feel awkward. We didn't graduate if we didn't have those skill sets under our belt. While I was in school, I begrudged every second.
Wow.
Every marketing class I had to take, every paper about how I was going to present myself,
Excuse me.
God bless you, every business plan that they made me pretend to design, I begrudged all of it because in my brain, I was
Yeah.
here for science
For
and
fitness.
fitness. And what am I doing? Why are you making me pay for these classes? I had such a bad chip on my shoulder, which I fully admit. I know I had a crap attitude about it, not knowing what my future would be. COVID hit. I had to pivot. I couldn't just stay out of work for an undisclosed amount of time. It wasn't going to work.
So what
So
did you do?
I went into direct sales. I had already had a little direct sales dabbling because what single mom, honestly, in this modern day hasn't dabbled somewhere.
Yeah.
I had been with Beachbody, which is part of what made me decide that I wanted to go to school for what I was doing because I loved it. I loved the workouts. I loved the communities in the Fit Pro worlds. I loved what I was learning about eating because they do have a strong nutrition side over there. And I was fascinated by it. I enjoyed it. I felt better. I do like to help people. So I was like, oh, I can help people rebuild themselves. Okay, close again, so close, but not quite there. So I went into direct sales more seriously as this has to be it. I've got a little bit from the unemployment that the states were giving out at that time. It's not enough. I really don't want to deplete everything I have. I'm certainly not willing to lose my house, and my kids should not suffer for things in the world that are beyond anybody's control. So I took it very seriously. Big difference from when I was dabbling with Beachbody is I actually started to structure my direct sales business as a business. I had working hours. I had tasks that had to be completed every day. I had a cycle. I had a customer care system. And as silly as it is, because most of that business was run from my recliner while we were all locked in our homes, it ran just like a business in an office building would. And that's when the light bulb came on because I was making enough money that I could support my family.
Through
And I was
Beachbody.
able to put my son through college. And I was able to build what we needed. I didn't end up going back to the gyms, even after they opened, because in the time that the gyms were closed, I built 2 direct sales businesses that were sustainable enough that I was able to not need the gym.
Right.
Not
So one of them was Beachbody. You were still doing Beachbody then?
No, actually, one of them was Scentsy, which is like home decor, waxes and warmers, and those.
Okay.
They have a cleaning line, that kind of stuff. I picked them because they're no chemicals, no soot, no
Okay.
flame, right? So there's always been that element of it's got to be. And then after I had built my Scentsy business, which was doing well, I had a friend that was kind of rising through the ranks of Mary Kay. And she recruited me into Mary Kay. She was like, well, let's see what you can do. And I was like, all right, they're not a conflict. So I was able to do them side by side
Right.
to do with each other, which is usually a compliance thing in those companies. But these didn't have any overlap of product. So I didn't run into compliance issues. So I started a beauty business. And then I started building out my beauty business. And for a while, my beauty business actually started to grow faster than the Scentsy business I already had. Partly because I think I already had a system down. So then
Okay.
it became adding these streams of income. It's like, oh, it's like a wash, rinse, and repeat. I cracked the code. I figured it out. I realized how to get seen. I leveraged social media. And now, okay, let's just transfer everything we're doing over here and transfer it into beauty. And after I was able to successfully transfer it into beauty, I transferred it into nails temporarily, part of an experiment. I had a friend that was doing the color street thing. So I was like, well, does it work here? And it did, which made me realize that it's not the what you're selling. You can sell whatever you're passionate about. It's the how are you selling it?
Okay. So basically you created systems that helped you sell and you were
Yes.
able to transfer that system to different products.
To different industries,
Okay.
different industries. You got to figure I'm in home decor, I'm in beauty, I'm in manicures, you know what I mean? So as I continued to build these things and the internet's always watching, and I was very present in social media, that's how I built the traffic for my businesses. People started to take notice. So people started to ask questions. For a long time, couple of years, I just helped people. I just helped people. I kind of, as I was figuring it out, trickling around, Um, and then I started having people be like, you should charge money for this. Well, I don't know. I started getting hired by team leaders because somebody would know somebody. They'd be like, hey, there's this girl, see what she's doing. And then they'd reach out and they'd be like, will you come in and train my team?
Okay.
So, almost like a consulting, right? And I would come in, do like a 2 or 3 day training, or I'd do like a week-long boot camp. And then
that sounds fun.
we never opened the doors publicly. I didn't have them packaged at courses at that time. It was all entirely private, and you had to contract me. Then I started having people being like, can you just do it for me? So then I started social media managing. It all just evolved itself. There were people that I attempted to teach and that didn't want to do the amount of work it actually is to do what I was doing. So that opened the door for me to do a done for you side to my business. And then in 2023, I decided that I wanted to help more people, because the only flaw in what I was doing is that the only way you could work with me is if somebody knew me. It was entirely referral. So now in 2023, I have multiple direct sales businesses. They're all bringing in a positive cash flow. And I have these consulting gigs on the side, a little bit of ghostwriting, other people's content and marketing, and a couple of people that they're just having me do it for them. Amazing. I'm super busy all the time, but there was no way to get the people that needed me more, because at that point I accidentally had fallen into this little pocket where you had to afford to be able to pay me to do it entirely for you, or hire me to come and teach 20, 30, 40 people in your team.
Right.
I was only landing with the already successful. They were looking for more success or a different traffic source.
Right. Or you had to be part of a team to benefit from the training that they were hiring.
Right. So that
if you were solo, there was no way you could help them.
Yes, that kept a lot of the crafters, a lot of the designers, woodworkers, crocheters, Etsy businesses of any kind in fashion, and even brick and mortar businesses. Marketing is marketing is marketing is marketing.
Right.
It does not matter. And that's what I accidentally learned on my journey. It doesn't matter what you're applying it to. It's the fundamental of what you're doing. And how do you shift it to fit wherever you're trying to go? So I took a huge leap that some would say ruined some things. I actually think they just evolved some things. That's my choice of how I view it. I decided I was going public. I was gonna coach people publicly, and I was gonna offer, I felt, very reasonably priced courses, anywhere from like the $47 range to $297, depending on how in depth of a training experience they were. That was a leap. That was a put myself out there in a face. Everybody knew I sold things. I had completely come to terms with the people that have the bad stigma around network marketing. I had gotten over all those mental hurdles. But my face wasn't the brand of any of those businesses. It was about the products.
Correct.
So I took a huge giant leap, planted my flag in the ground on the internet, and said, here I am. I teach business owners how to use social media to have more success. Decided that's what I was doing, and I ran with it full force. And it did pretty amazing. About 3 months into my public announcement, which was January 1st, 2023, I had already picked up almost 400 students.
Wow.
Because people were looking for someone to tell them what to actually do. Everybody's got an upline or a friend or watches someone else's journey coming in at a different point of success. And they say, you got to show up in your business every day. What does that mean? You got to post every day in your pages. Great. What does that mean? What are you posting? When are you posting it? Why are you posting it? Biggest flaw that I found in all of the business that I've worked with, even people that were doing things the right way, they had no idea why they were doing it. No structural concept.
They were just doing it. Just
so
I'm just doing it. It just so happened that it worked out.
Yes. And for some, they got lucky. It worked out. Or some, they had an upline that had actually figured out some kind of system in place. So they were just replicating, which is okay. But you should know why you're doing things, because that empowers you to be able to do anything you ever want to do.
Right.
So my courses turned into live trainings. My live trainings turned into masterminds. My masterminds turned into my own platform, EmpowerHer, where now I teach business owners every single week, and I give them the tools and I explain in more in depth the why, and we tailor what we talk about to their unique businesses. But I had to give up all of my direct sales businesses, which people then thought that I was crazy. Because now for the second chapter of my life, I was closing on purpose successful businesses that I had already built. And I don't know if you want to call it a leap of faith. I don't know if it's just I evolved while my brand was evolving. So it was okay to let those pieces go. But I started to run into compliance issues with the direct sales. And I actually was put in a position where I couldn't run any ads, because I can't advertise to people in their companies or other companies. And I couldn't talk about this product, but also say I'm with this company in one audience, and my coaching audience was one public audience.
Right. You couldn't promote you couldn't train another person on a different product that you were not selling.
Yes, it got very complicated.
Wow.
I battled, I fought, I argued, I did what I could. I kept them going. And then I made the executive decision after a year. I was exhausted. I was already making more money in these coaching, teaching avenues than I was with all of the direct sales combined. I had at that point picked up almost 1,000 students. I had made my way into 2 countries at that point. Now I'm in 4, but I had made my way to 2 countries, and I was like, no, I'm going to just jump off the cliff. Again, a whole bunch of people in my world chimed in. You're crazy. You've got this whole thing going. You're ranked. You're top 3% over here. You're the, top 2 in your entire unit. All of the language of the, oh, baby, don't go, that could possibly come out of those worlds. And they weren't wrong. I was doing very well. But I'll be completely honest. Part of me didn't like being told what I can and can't do. That helped.
Well, once you get a taste for owning your own business, it can be a very hard thing to. Yes. And that's why I think that's why we all choose to own our own business, because you kind of dictate your own future and what you can and cannot do.
Yeah. So in 2024, I gave up all of my direct sales income, went full time into coaching, done for you, social media management, and teaching marketing. And now we're almost at 2026, and here I am, still here.
I think that's a great story. And I think you just shared something extremely important on how, as a person, you have evolved professionally in different careers. I mean, some people may, have different careers even if they work for other people. But, when you're an entrepreneurial person, that happens as well. And it's funny because you talked about the gym, something I never share with people. I owned a gym.
I think that's amazing.
And for maybe 3 or 4 years, and I closed it, and I got, I let it go when I decided to get a divorce. So it was kind of like part of I have to clean house. So it was, I was like, was not getting the return of investment that I wanted. So I closed it. But yeah, I can relate to the fact that you have to sometimes close a chapter to make room for the next one. Yes. And now it's almost like I always wanted to work independently from remotely. So I couldn't run a daycare if I wanted to do that. So then it kind of led me that I had to also close that business if I wanted to give room for something else. Right. Yes, so
I really believe, even as an entrepreneur, maybe even especially as an entrepreneur, there are chapters. And right. Truthfully, I don't know that this is the final end all be all of what I will become and what I will do. I will probably stay in a space where I have the option to help people, because I do like it. That's a recurring.
Yeah, that's what I enjoy myself too. Yeah.
I've always been serving in some fashion, even if it's literally, here's your dinner. I have always been serving or help. That's in me. I don't think that that's going to ever leave, but the shape that it takes, the form, the way that it gets to the public, and how far can it reach into the public? Because that's really what a lot of the appeal was when it was, okay, I have my direct sales businesses, and yeah, I'll help some people feel pretty or boost their confidence or like the way their house smells, or I can come over here and I can show the single mom who has no idea how she's going to keep the lights on, which was me one day, I can show her how to do what I'm doing so that her kids don't have to not have the good fruit snacks. So they, like those things are so important. You got to let your kid have the Oreos if they're going to sit at the lunch table with the kids with the Oreos. You just have to. It's important, right? And they're little things and they sound so stupid, but those things are really hard, especially if you're on your own.
Right. That's very true.
My husband passed away when my daughter was 6 years old. I didn't have somebody will figure it out for me. It was
right.
We gotta figure it out. And we didn't always know exactly how it was going to go. And honestly, I don't always feel like I don't know where next year will be. I know that I'm going to come up tomorrow and I'm going to do the next thing.
If there's something that I have learned about people who are entrepreneurial people, you lose the fear of having to start all over again.
Oh, yeah.
Because
I love it.
Once you realize that you've been able to successfully launch a couple of businesses, even though when you decide to shut one down and start another one, there's a little bit of a room for growth and you have to kind of reestablish yourself in whatever else you decide to do. But you sort of know, like, after I did it before, I can do it again. And the confidence it's never a question of can I do it? It's just a matter of when am I going to reach that goal that I know I can reach if I put in the work. So I think that is something that that people who work for other people sometimes don't understand, because they'll tell me, like, aren't you afraid? What if it doesn't work? I'm like, you just know that if you keep working, eventually it'll work. If you just give up, it won't work. But as long as you keep at it, it'll work.
Anything, if you understand what you're trying to do, that's the knowledge gap of the entrepreneurial spirit and the successful business owner is vast. The gap of knowledge in the middle. And that's directly what I focus on. That is my focus, because if every entrepreneurial spirit had this information that sits in the middle over here that separates them from the successful business owner, everybody would be the successful business owner, because it doesn't matter, again, what industry you're applying it to. The rules, the fundamentals, the principles, they don't change. They're finite. And that's fascinating to me, but it also, it's proven completely infallible. I have now worked in hundreds of industries. I have worked with thousands of students. I've worked with people in 4 countries. And everyone that follows the actual structures,
system,
it works. The only time it doesn't work is when the person doesn't do the work. That's the only time I've ever seen it not work.
So I wanted to take advantage and dive in just a little deep, if you don't mind, because I think what helped you kind of leap from being a direct sales into being a social media strategist is that you have been able to create systems and understand patterns and understand platforms and things that, the daily consumer of all these social media platforms, we just look at the pretty face, let's call it that way, but we don't realize all the steps that you have to put into to really get that final product. And I think for what I've gathered is that you were able to kind of look through the underneath that veil and understand the different steps and patterns that you have to do to really push yourself through the platform so you're able to be visible and become profitable.
Every platform has an algorithm. Every search engine, also great traffic sources, have an algorithm, right? The algorithm being the easiest explanation, the little robot that runs where things go and who gets to see them. It's a software. It means it's coded. That means it's pre-written, which means it's also finite, which is something I think I'm hardwired for. So maybe I got a little lucky in that innate ability, but it is a finite, almost like an if-then flow chart, right?
Right. So, to me, it's almost like a mathematical code to it. Like,
yes, everything.
Equation. If this, then that.
Yes, a large if-then flow chart.
Right.
So no matter what platform, no matter what business, no matter what industry, if you walk into the platform, if you do this, the result will be that. If you do that, the result will be this. And that's all it's capable of being, because it's a software. So it's pre-written. The outcome is predetermined. But most people go into a platform. Huge fatal flaw number 1 is they think they're all the same. That's the number one, the biggest problem I'll find. I'll find somebody that does amazing on Facebook, and then they'll be like, I cannot get more than like 100 Instagram followers and nobody comments on my stuff. Well, are you trying to run Instagram like Facebook? Well, yeah, I'm doing the exact same thing I'm doing and it works over here. Okay, that's awesome, except it's not Facebook, right? The same applies. TikTok, YouTube, Threads, Pinterest, Twitter, now X, whatever we like to call it these days. I think I'm boycotting the X thing internally because I never remember to call it that. Search engines. A search engine is a search engine. If you want a Google rank, it's the same as getting yourself 200,000 views on Pinterest. And if you want to be a top spot every time someone opens the app in Pinterest, you can take those skills and you can move them over to being an AI suggested in anytime anybody opens anything, because AI is kind of on the move, but it's systematic, it's predetermined. Now, fatal flaw number 2, people don't like to do things the way someone else decided to do them. That is the biggest mental hurdle that I find when people are new and start working with me. I'll tell them, you got to do X, Y, Z. I don't like to do it that way. I know. None of us do. None of us do, I promise you. But if you want the end result, and that a lot of times with entrepreneurship, brick and mortar, digital space, or otherwise, you have to make hard decisions regularly as an entrepreneur. Do you want the end desired result, or do you want to do whatever the heck you feel like that day? And we're entrepreneurs because we want to do what the heck we feel like that day.
Yeah, that's very true.
We want to write our schedule, and we want to decide what our days off are, and we want the freedom to go to on vacation, and we want to be able to work in our pajama pants on our couch on Tuesday mornings because we like it. And those are all things you can do as an entrepreneur, but a balance inside the entrepreneur of, okay, in order to be able to work in my pajama pants on Tuesday mornings, I have to do these other things that are decided outside of me. And it's almost like the two component, they collide internally in the entrepreneur. Right. But I'm doing that so I can do things my way. It's like, right, but you need to leverage these tools so you can do things your way.
Right.
I struggled with that a long time ago because, like I said, I owned a brick and mortar business before I did any of these other things. And I had a hard time some days. I don't want to go to work on Wednesday.
Right.
I didn't have to because nobody could fire me. But I got to tell you, Thursdays were awfully sloppy when I didn't go to work on Wednesdays. Right. There was a direct impact. There was either I was playing catch up, or I was behind, or I was losing money because mistakes were made when I wasn't there, right? There's always a consequence. Yeah, you can do whatever you want.
Right.
But there's a consequence in digital or in brick and mortar. And I I'll fully own it. I'm super transparent. I don't mind saying every mistake I made because I hope it saves somebody to make them. I ran a pretty loose ship. And my success level suffered for it because I couldn't just get with the program of this is how this particular thing is done. I fought it because of that flame inside me that tells me nobody tells me what to do.
But you were able to hone it down when it came from social media. It came from a coding platform. So it was no longer personal, right?
Yes, now it's the robot. And what am I going to do? Sit around mad at a robot?
Right. Just use it to your advantage.
Yes.
So it sounds like you were able to take that knowledge and you just use it to your advantage and don't stress about it.
Yes. Now I make the choice. I will have to do some things I don't want to do that aren't my favorite thing to do in the digital spaces, but pros and cons, baby. Get out your legal pad and make your lists. Yeah. I have freedom. I work a lot by choice, but I have freedom. If I want to go to dinner with my family, I can move my schedule around. My work still has to be done, but I can go to dinner. And that is, for me, that will keep me in the self-employed entrepreneur, solopreneur, whatever name you like to put on it. That will keep me there, regardless of what business or industry I choose to work in. Right now, I really like the variety of what I'm doing because I'm never bored. I think that's the other problem with the entrepreneur. We get bored easy. We get so bored.
Well, I think also because I think people who are driven to become entrepreneurs, we love to start new things. That is where the excitement, that's where where the big thing. I mean, I personally enjoy it myself. And the new ideas really fuel your spirit. But I think as an entrepreneurial person, we tend to shift as society shifts. And I know some of the listeners might be younger and might not know glamour shots, but that's a perfect example of how we have evolved. That was a great business, and yet is people don't even know what that is anymore, right? So, and yet it made a lot of money when it was the hot thing to do. So I think if we as people, especially as entrepreneurs, continue to be open and flexible to adjusting as the times change, we are always going to be having to do something new.
Yes, I love the new. Just like I said, I like what I'm doing because I work. In any given week, I can work with 30 different industries, and sometimes more. But safe bet, so nobody can call me a liar, at least 30 different industries I'm playing with in the course of my week, and that keeps me very
for clients that you serve, correct?
Yes. That keeps me very not bored, right? Because I will be formatting somebody's book and designing a marketing campaign for somebody's gift basket business, and then structuring a 5-day event for somebody's beauty business. And then I'll be helping somebody create a lead magnet for their food-based business, right? I love that aspect of it because the boredom goes away. But I truly love the inventing. I love the inventing. And you had mentioned a few moments ago that, as entrepreneurs, we come to a point where we're not scared of the if we can do it. It's just a matter of when we can do it. I love the brand new. I love the conception part of creating businesses. Like that's my nerd jam, I guess you could call it. Everybody, I don't know. That's the passion piece. If I could, and I've told a lot of my students this, it comes up in conversation, because they always say, if you didn't have to work and money was no object and you didn't have anybody to leave your retirement to, what would you do? I would probably invent businesses and have other people go start them. But I haven't found a place in the world where people just are like, yeah, let me spend money on that thing that only your head can see. No one's willing to invest in what's inside my head that they can't yet see. I have to actually build the thing, and then
people will follow, right? People need to see data.
Yes. But if I truly like an imaginary thing that doesn't exist right now in the world, I would create, I would design, I would structure, I would package, and just here's a business. Now go make money. That's truly what I would do. I love that part. I don't know if it's the creativity piece or if it's the new. It's new, it's shiny. I don't know if it's an empty nester thing I'm going through to be, you know what I mean? Like my kids are adults now. So
we have more time.
My little business babies. I don't know what it is, but it is something that I'm very, very passionate about. It's fun. Because people also say to me all the time, they're like, you work. I do work usually 7 days a week in some capacity or another. And doesn't that drive you good? No, it doesn't. I like what I do. A lot of times what I'm doing doesn't feel.
No, you're in a playground. You're like playing all the time.
Yes, that's what it feels like to me. Even though I'm not, I'm doing work. I mean, other people's incomes depend on what I'm doing. It's serious work, but it doesn't feel like that, which also is usually an indicator for me that I'm where I'm supposed to be.
Correct. Right.
And if I can impart anything on any entrepreneur who happens to listen to this at any point in existence, if it feels like a burden, there's one of two things going on. You have either decided that it is a burden, you're bothered to do the work, or you're not quite where you're supposed to be. You might be very close.
Well, and I want to add to that. I think no entrepreneurial experience is ever going to be without its caveats or their buts. There's going to be, I want to say 80% of any endeavor we take on that we're going to love, but we're always going to have that 20% that we don't want to do. But I mean, for me, it's definitely the fact that the alarm goes off at 7 a.m. I need to go into social media, and I try to, like, today was like, okay, you know what, Patricia, like, you're going to have to bite the count's going to go down, but I just had to rest. But I had to give myself permission. I had to talk to myself, but at least I know the consequences, which I think is very important. At least knowing what you're supposed to be doing, and the day you choose not to, you know the price you're paying and being okay with it. But again, as a business owner, you know what the 20% of the things that you don't like to do, and you can manage how and when you do them. And when you decide to take that painful setback, at least you know that it's on you, right? You don't have a supervisor, because every job is going to have that. But I think people have to remember that piece. But yeah, I think 100% people that become entrepreneurs have to learn to manage, and also learn how to say no to either clients or customers or whatever it is that you're doing, or projects or family members, because you're doing this because you want to be happy, not to make other people happy necessarily.
Boundaries are probably one of my
And
newest.
sometimes, it's like, and honestly, I've made choices myself that I have a goal where I want my business to grow to. I'm not there yet, and it's okay. And I had a client that came through that I realized this is not going to be a good match. And I figured it out within the first week of acquiring the client. I was like, I'm not going to lose sleep, because I could see where the pattern was creating. And I could see that this was a person who was extremely anxious, needed a little hand holding, and I'm very a matter of fact kind of person. Numbers are very simple. 2 + 2 is 4, so let's not stress about it. And if your equation is 4.1, then you need to go back to your math, because there's no way that could be happening. So, and when I realized this person was really nervous whenever she got the 4.1, and she couldn't understand why, and I was like, I'm like, I'd rather not, this is why I own my business. So I had to let go of this client for your own peace of mind. But I think you have to also learn how to do it as a business owner, to balance, because like you said, it should be your playground. 80 to 90% of the time you should be playing and having fun. But if you are so desperate or greedy or needy or ambitious, I think is the right word, that you're willing to take whatever opportunity comes your way without realizing some of the sacrifices you might be making to meet that goal, then the playground now is kind of like your jail.
So
and I think that's why it's important for people to realize that when you choose to become a business owner, every choice you make, you have to be very conscious about making sure that you keep building your playground.
Yes. So I did not have the firmest grasp of how to say no to people. And I don't think it was that I was desperate, because when I came into what I'm doing now, I already had income streams. So I don't think that it was a desperation. It was a desire, my desire to give everybody an equal chance, to give everybody an even playing field, to give anyone that wanted them the tools that could get them to the next level from wherever it is that they were. I wanted that to be anyone and everyone so badly that I did say yes to a lot of work I shouldn't have done. And it drove me crazy. I had a couple of months, even though this has been very successful, I've had a couple of different months where I've questioned, is this still what I want to do? Is this going to drive me completely over the edge? There are peaceful elements to only running my own little lipstick business. However, there are very, very rewarding elements to helping somebody get their business off the ground, right? Pros and cons. Again, get that legal plan out, make your list. You have to decide. But what I did determine in kind of, again, the ebbs and flows, the up and down of that journey, what I did determine is I don't have to do anything.
There we go.
That was the baseline of what it means. I don't have to own my own business. I can go work for somebody else and get hired with the skill set that I have at any time. I don't have to take this type of work or that type of work. I can choose to. And when I was able to bring a better constant awareness, it's not that I wasn't aware, but like a constant awareness inside me that I am in control of this all the time. And if you make me crazy, I can fire you. That one also took me a couple of months to kind of like get under my belt. Like, oh my gosh, I said I would help them. Oh, but I don't have to, because they're making it impossible to help them. That was a whole growth journey in itself that took months for me to come over the hurdle. Now, fast forward, we're almost at the 3-year mark. I am very comfortable. I have fired clients. I have fired students. I will do it again. That's not to be mean.
But it comes with time. And I think it comes with experience. And, when I ran the gym, and I'm sure you've heard of it, it used to be called Get in Shape for Women. And it's very big in the Boston, Massachusetts area. So anyhow, one of the big things that were very big on is they wanted us to practice saying no. And they didn't want us to let everybody that came through the door that was interested in joining to join. And we had to practice the power of saying no as part of the growth of the business. And I didn't quite get it from their perspective, because I thought, if the client really wants to lose the weight and they're committed and they're ready to pay, why are we going to argue with this client? I mean, they want this service. But I could understand that what this person was trying to teach was, is the concept of you being empowered and you choosing who comes into your life or your business and who does not. And I think that, like you said, it comes with experience, and it comes with also learning about yourself. Because in my previous life, as you know, I own a childcare business, and I trained a lot of teachers and small business owners in education, and people go into the field of working as a childcare provider and owning their small business daycare because they love kids. And sometimes they love kids so much that they forget how to say no to parents. And parents sometimes manage them without realizing. So, and because they're in love with the kids, so again, it's all about experience, practice, self-love. Because a lot of the providers that I had as students in college, I realized they had to learn how to have confidence within themselves to then, when a parent came and asked for some unrealistic things, be able to say no and not feel bad.
Absolutely.
And because, again, there's the attachment of a human being that you care for, which I think makes it even a lot harder for the bleeding heart that a lot of the caregivers have. But I think people need to realize that being an entrepreneur is a journey, and it helps you learn about your business. It helps you learn about who you are, and you learn from your lessons of what works for you and what doesn't. And one of the big things that I've heard from a lot of people, you have a mixed bag. You have people who want to wait until they have everything set and organized to then launch their business. And that keeps them in this getting ready place for many years to come, and they never launch it. And then you have people who they don't have any clue what they're doing. They just quit their job and they're going to try to make it work. And of course, then they're making a lot of mistakes in the process because maybe they're not reaching out to support and coaches to really help them avoid some of the mistakes along the way. So
may I interject? Because I could probably rattle off 100 by name, which I will not do, examples. A toxic trait of the entrepreneur, because we're go-getters, I'll build it myself, I'll do it myself. One of the toxic traits of the entrepreneur that I used to have, recovered toxic trait here saying this, so nobody get offended. I don't need somebody to teach me because I can learn it on my own. You can.
It's going to take you forever, and you're going to have to make a lot of mistakes and money.
It took me 8 years to learn what I can teach someone in one.
I agree.
And that is a big talk. I see it a lot. I work with several authors, and I help them get their books formatted and published through self-publishing. I'm not with a publishing house. And I have someone that I have spoken to a couple of times, offered my assistance. I don't push anybody. I am at a point where if you're supposed to be working with me, you will come work with me. And if it's not your time and you're not ready, I'm not going to be able to serve you as well anyways, because you're not ready to hear what I have to tell you to help you, right? I really am a firm believer in that. But he did not want help. He did not want to be taught how to do the formatting and the structure himself. And he has a book that recently came out a couple of weeks ago, and all of his page headings are cut in half in the print because the print doesn't check it. They don't.
Oh, no, they don't.
They don't, right? They're there to print the pages and get paid to print the pages. They're not there to edit, and they're not there to format. and an editor doesn't format, and somebody who does formatting isn't your editor, right? And people overlook these different elements that go into what they want to do. And I see it so often with entrepreneurs, right? They're like, oh, it's a business in a box, whether it's direct sales or it's an Etsy store. You're going to make t-shirts. You're going to design wall art. You're an artist and you want to sell your paintings. You want to sell your short stories through publishing with Amazon. You want to teach people something you love and know. That's awesome. How are you packaging that? It all can be done, right? But success leaves clues. And you've got to let somebody, if you want to speed up your time, you got to let somebody who's done it show you what to do. You'll save yourself. Because again, I failed forward. I do not consider myself a success in Beachbody, even though I was a ranked Beachbody coach. And even though I was with Beachbody for years before I went to school to be a trainer, it was a side hobby, an expensive hobby. And it was the toxic term of side hustle. I had a full-time job. It wasn't my number one focus. I didn't devote the energy that it has. I cut corners. I didn't take the time to learn what I really should be doing. I just kind of threw spaghetti at the wall, which is the worst business plan ever, by the way. Throw spaghetti at the wall and be like, why aren't I rich yet? I don't understand. Right. But I did all those things. And I'd have a little bit of success. And to the point, I was a multi-ranked coach. It's not that I didn't get anywhere, right? I ranked through Emerald. I ranked through Ruby. I had a team underneath me. And I still wasn't profitable because I had no idea what I was doing. I was just showing up in the internet, and sometimes good things would happen and sometimes they wouldn't. But I had a full-time job at that point. So I didn't care if I wasn't making money over here, right? It was an expensive, time-consuming hobby. Even though I had money sold and a team underneath me and a title, it was still an expensive, time-consuming hobby because my time is more valuable than actually the money I bring in.
Right.
And I wasted so much time spinning in circles. I could have achieved so much more, but I was stubborn and I have that entrepreneurial flame. So I think I can do everything on my own, which in time, yes, I can. But again, in time, yes, I can.
Yeah, I know, funny enough, because I love being an entrepreneur, but if there's anything that I love about being an entrepreneur is I love the fact that I can delegate everything. Yes. And if anything, that's one thing that I have learned. But having said that, when you are willing to delegate, you need to accept and embrace that people are going to do things their way, not yours, because they're not you. And you need to be okay with that little bit of a difference. It's, as long as 80% of the business runs your way, you have to give people that you hire or the people who are helping you room to be 20% themselves, because they're not you. And I think some entrepreneurs, they're like, well, they're not doing it their ways, like, and it's like, it's okay. I'm like, they're not you, but they're working. They show up on time. They meet their deadlines. And yeah, maybe they're not very organized. So you have to kind of take the good with the bad, and you come. But I think some entrepreneurial people forget that you can outsource it. You can delegate things out. You can have people help you grow your business, and understand that not everyone is going to do things exactly the way you want them to be. But as long as it's getting done and the needle's moving on the right direction, then, and if 80% of it is great, then sometimes you have to give people room to be themselves and just move forward.
If you're delegating, I personally believe the first thing you have to, before you get mad, before you get irritated, before you get annoyed, before you decide you're going to take all the reins back, is there a result? That's the question. If you're not doing it yourself, is there a result? That's what you should be looking at first. But they write their name second and put the date on the paper first. Does it matter?
Right.
It might to you, right? Everybody's different, and that's a silly.
And you said something at the beginning. You said systems.
Yes.
And if you are going to hire people and you want to delegate things, if you have systems and processes and protocols that people can follow, then that's really going to make a difference. So if you want to expand and grow and be an entrepreneur and kind of live the dream life that is almost like, oh, I own a business, but I only go 20 hours a week to my business because I have people working, which is wonderful. Make sure you have processes, make sure you have protocols, that you have patterns patterns that people can follow so they're successful, and they're not compromising what you have created.
The closest you'll ever get to somebody doing it the way you would is if you have made something replicatable.
Correct.
It can't all be stored in your head or unlabeled Word docs in your desktop.
Right.
And then you're mad because somebody else can't do this thing that they can't see and they didn't think of. However, to compound success anywhere, what you're doing needs to be replicatable, because that was the big eye-opener, life-changing, pivotal moment for me in my own entrepreneurial journey, was when I realized I could take exactly what I'm doing in space A and apply it to space B, and now I have 2 incomes. So now let's see, if I put it in space C, does it work again? Great, now I have 3 incomes.
Right.
But it's got to be replicatable. It can't be chaos. Chaos will never bring you.
It cannot grow. It cannot grow.
Right.
It cannot grow. So yeah, I think that's why I was able to run the daycare successfully for 17 years and not work. Basically, I only worked maybe 2 or 3 days of the year in it, but I did have patterns and systems in place. Like we had checklists in the morning for opening, checklists for changing diapers, checklists for when a child had a temperature. We had protocols and procedures for every single thing we did, and so we knew where to check. For anything. So then the girls knew what to do. And then if not, they would call me and I would just walk them through the steps that we had in place, and the business can run itself. But I think that is why corporate businesses work. Like I worked for Williams-Sonoma in college, and that's where I learned all those tricks. I mean, I was a key holder. I was like an assistant manager in college, and I was able to run their store. Why? Because they had checklists for everything. A checklist to open, a checklist for opening the register, a checklist for a transaction, a checklist for a return, a checklist for restocking the place, a checklist to place an order for supplies. So everything had checklists. So we just followed the checklist and the business just ran smoothly. So I think those are all things as an entrepreneurial person that if you figure those things out, you can grow your business. And I think when you set systems, you were referring to all of the systems that you have created that, like you said, now you can replicate in every single business.
Yes.
And you're able to help people in social media with that.
Yes, it's a structure. And again, so counterintuitive to the entrepreneur that wants to fly by the seat of their pants and be free all of the time. It's so counterintuitive to us. I think that's why so many entrepreneurs struggle with systems. It is counterintuitive. But if you'll accept them and you'll embrace them, whether you use somebody else's or you spend the time creating your own, you will see better success when you implement them. Period. Correct. If I've learned anything, all these businesses, all these decades on the planet, as nonconformist as I am in spirit, I have built uncomparable success, embracing the exact things I used to fight when I was younger.
So that's a great lesson. So Megan, you are a social media strategist. I know that you directly help people with their ability to maximize their time in social media and minimize their time in social media, but maximize their results. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So the idea is, yes, so you maximize your results for using your time wisely. And that is what you're known for in the group where I met you. And I can attest to that for sure. I've been able to reduce my amount of time that I put in social media, yet I can see that when I follow the instructions that I've been given, my little pretty checklist, that the results are definitely there for sure. So thank you, Megan, for coming in. If people want to talk to you, if they have questions, if they want to reach out to you, where should they go? Should they go to your website?
That's probably the easiest. I have a contact form. I think it's on the second page. It's right inside the website. It's Megan Baxter online. Very hard to mess up on that one. No weird spellings or anything. And also my Facebook business page is a great place to take a peek just kind of at the community I've built. There's tens of thousands of people in there. And it's good to get a sense of a feel. The community of entrepreneurs is something that's extremely important to me. So I would say take a peek at both. But if you only got time to check out one, do the website.
Excellent. Okay, so if you want to reach out to her, I think that the website is the easiest, fastest way to get a hold of Megan. So thank you, Megan, again, for taking the time, explaining to us your path, how you got into social media. And hopefully we'll have you on social media for a long time. But if something else piques your interest and helps you evolve, I can't wait to see what the next thing might be.
I'll be here for a while.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Bye. Thank you for joining me for today's episode of the Book of Balance podcast. I hope you enjoyed our conversation and found value in the insights we shared. Make sure you subscribe so you never miss a future episode. And as promised during the show, you'll also find a link in the description with today's guest information, website links, and all the mentions we talked about during the episode. And if you're a do-it-yourself entrepreneur, you can join the Clarity Compass method at claritycompassllc.com. It's a monthly subscription where business owners like you dedicate just 1 hour each week to work in their books, get their questions answered, and stay consistent with their support of a community committed to financial clarity. Now, if you'd like to connect with me personally, head on to my website, oleggy.com, to schedule your complimentary 15-minute consultation. It's the perfect way to get your personalized bookkeeping questions answered and explore how the white glove services can support your business. And on the last note, remember, we are not lawyers or financial advisors. Everything shared here reflects our professional opinions and is provided solely for educational purposes and entertainment purposes only. So thanks again for listening, and until next time, keep your compass set on clarity.